Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, we hit 100 subscribers this week. So I just wanted to say a big thanks to everyone. Inshallah, carry on sharing the channel and we can continue to spread the message to others. So today, I know I said I was going to speak about the school leaver route to becoming a qualified accountant. However, I wanted to speak first about my experiences which led to me deciding that the school leaver route was right for me. I want to speak about these experiences first because I learned a lot of good lessons which inshallah will help others, especially those who may have received their results over the past week and it may not have gone as expected. So when I was growing up, I had the opportunity to attend a good grammar school. I was getting good grades, and for me the natural step was to go on to university. However, that didn't sit right with me. I didn't want to go to university because to attend a good university, I would have lived far away from home. I would have been living out away from family, which I wasn't used to at the time. I also would have been relying on my parents for financial support, taking on student debt and student loans. So all of that sounded like a big burden to me. So at that point, I decided, you know what, I'm not going to go to university, but I will instead follow a structured training program of some sort to become a qualified professional. And that's the first lesson that I learned, that no matter what society tells you or what society says is right for you, do what is good for yourself. So then I had to obviously decide on a career, and coming from a predominantly Pakistani community, the main careers that stood out were doctor, engineer, accountant, solicitor, or pharmacist. And I couldn't really go for any of the science related careers because you needed a degree. So that really left solicitor or become an accountant. And for me, although I had a key interest in law, there were no structured training programs out there for school leavers. So that really left accountancy. And I thought to myself, you know, I'm good at maths. Alhamdulillah, it's a stable career and you can earn a good salary. So that's how I decided, right, I'm going to become an accountant. Unfortunately, I didn't have anyone to guide me at that point. So my decision was based on limited information. So once I decided I wanted to become an accountant, I obviously had to explain that to my parents because they were always of the opinion that someone in my position would always go to university and then get a stable career. So when I was having that conversation with my parents, it was very typical. I explained that I didn't want to go to university, but my parents were of the opinion that, you know, everyone in the community who's done their A-levels goes on to study a degree and get a career. But I explained to my parents that, you know, to become an accountant, you don't have to go to university anymore. You can do one of these school leaver programs. And that's where my mum said something that was quite key for me. And she said, Fazan, look, you've studied yourself for GCSEs and A-levels. We weren't educated in this country, so we've always relied on what we've seen others do. But alhamdulillah, you know what's good for you, so you do what's best for you. So there were a number of lessons that I learned from that conversation. Firstly, it's important to have these open discussions with our parents as early as possible. I think sometimes we leave these conversations too late. So my honest advice will be, if you're in a similar position, always have these conversations at the earliest chance with your parents. Remember, the advice from your parents may not be right, but they want what's best for you. They may not have had the luxury of being educated in this country like yourself. So when you're having that discussion, always be considerate and respectful. You know, don't get too brave. And the second lesson with regards to that conversation I had was maintain an open heart. So you may think you know what's best for you, but listen to other people's viewpoints, their feedback, because inshallah they may suggest something which you've never considered. So even though my parents were on board with me not going to university, I still applied for university because I wanted to keep my options open. And that's another important lesson. Even if you've decided to follow a particular route, there's no harm in keeping your options open. Because if you maintain an open heart, you never know when your heart might change its mind. So once I'd finished applying for university places, in the, I'd say, second half of year 13, I started applying for school leaver programs. However, I was very surprised because all of the school leaver programs in the immediate vicinity in central London, Reading, they'd all closed. And I was left with applying for a job in Southampton with PwC, which wasn't ideal. So a lesson there is, don't wait for opportunities to come to you. I was very lazy. You know, I waited till the second half of year 13 when I should have been applying as soon as I decided that I was going to do a school leaver program. So don't wait for those opportunities to come to you. Go and seize those opportunities yourself. So alhamdulillah, I got an interview at the PwC training program in Southampton. And I got the job offer as well, but I was very concerned at this stage because I thought Southampton is about 2 to 3 hours away from High Wycombe, so I was in a similar university dilemma where I'd be living away from home, which to be honest with you, I didn't really want at the time. But I thought, you know, I'll accept the job offer and wait till results day and then decide what's best for me. Alhamdulillah, come results day, you know, typical to a lot of people, I was struggling to sleep. It was 5, 6 a.m. I was up. I was looking at the newspapers for clearing places. I don't even know why, because I didn't want to go to university, but it just seemed like the standard thing to do at the time. So my results came in at about 8 a.m. and for me, results day was a disaster. You know, I didn't get the results to get into the PwC training program, nor were my grades good enough to even get into the universities which I had as a backup option. So at this point, I'm thinking, you know, my life's over. My world's been turned upside down. I have no career. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. I was mourning for a few days. I was feeling upset. So if you're in that same sort of situation, trust me, I've been there. So my advice to you, if you're in that situation, is, you know, be upset, cry it out, do what you need to do for 3 days to get it out of your system, and then plan how you're going to deal with the situation. You know, I put up a quote recently from John Wooden, who said, "Failure isn't fatal, but failure to change might be." And what I take from that is, you know, where I failed my A-levels, that wasn't failure as such. But if I hadn't gone and dealt with the situation, if I hadn't gone and done retakes to get better grades, then potentially I could have failed and not been in the position I am today. So I decided to take out a gap year so that I could retake my A-levels, and at the same time I could reapply for school leaver programs. There was a big benefit in that because I was applying much earlier, there was a lot more that was available to me. Alhamdulillah, at the time, I secured a job offer with the National Audit Office in London, and that meant that it was a much more commutable distance and a lot more pay than the job offer I had with PwC in the previous year. So whilst I was doing my retakes, I also worked for my cousin in a small office. Now, it was nothing compared to, you know, some of these big corporate companies in central London. However, alhamdulillah, I learned a lot of skills and it helped improve my confidence as well. An important lesson there is don't worry about your gap year being glamorous. You know, you don't have to go traveling around the world. If you work a nice stable job, even if it's something which you don't plan to have your career in, if you can save maybe £5,000 to £10,000, then alhamdulillah, I would say that's a massive success. So I retook my A-levels in January and in July. And the reason for that was so that I could give myself the best chance of getting the best grades possible. So for a lot of you, you might be thinking about taking your exams in October or November. What I would recommend is take exams for all of your subjects unless you received an A star or equivalent in that subject. So you might say to me, Fazan, I've got a B in one subject and I'm happy with that. But I would say to you, if you've got the opportunity to improve that grade from a B to an A or an A star, why would you not take it? So when I received my retake results in the following summer, I just about managed to get the grades that I needed to get onto the NAO school leaver program. Now I look back at that moment and I smile. You know, when I ultimately failed at first attempt, I thought my life was over. But alhamdulillah, looking back at it, it wasn't a failure because Allah Azza wa Jal had something better planned for me. That's the most important lesson. You know, if things aren't going planned, you're upset about your results, don't worry. You know, you may think that your life's turned upside down, but always remember that Allah Azza wa Jal is the best of planners. So inshallah, next time I will talk more about the school leaver route to becoming a qualified accountant. That's it from me. Inshallah, share this video, especially with those who may be feeling a bit down. It doesn't have to be exam related. Inshallah, remind them that although things may not be looking great at the moment, put your faith in Allah Azza wa Jal because He is the best of planners.